Hopefully anybody who's dialed in already is hearing music. Please let me know in the chat if you are hearing music. I'd love to know that it works and that it sounds a bit better than yesterday. Just posting the links out. Is there music playing? Is there not music playing? I don't know if anyone will dial in at this time. This is earlier than usual. And I guess, yeah, it might be a different bunch of people. Or it could be that some people have actually shifted their daily schedule on Sunday to listen to this. I'm curious to find out. I'll give it another 30 seconds or so, and then I'll pause this music, hopefully successfully, and start talking about the statistics, the charts. Yeah, let's get started. Increasing the music volume. Stopping the music, and hopefully you can hear me. If not, please let me know if there's any issue with the technology. I can probably fix it if I know about it, but I can't fix it if I don't know about it. So thank you for dialing in live or after the fact. This is the NFT market health analysis by me, Daniel Tenner, aka Swombat, where I take a look at what's happening in the market based on data rather than vibes, which is particularly important in times like this where there's a lot of emotional reaction going on in the market. People are acting based on big news, big hopes. The hopium is flowing freely. And so I think in these times it's particularly important that we look at what's actually happening rather than just what people are hoping will happen on the back of the Yuga Labs purchasing Lava Labs bit of news from yesterday. So if we look at the indices, on the face of it, it looks like, first of all, it's kind of obvious that the pump has subsided. By how much, we'll see when we look at the bar charts, but it's definitely not. So if one possible scenario was that we go straight to the moon from here, that's not what's happening. At best, we're going to continue on the path that we're in already. At worst, we could see a crash before we return to where we are in already, and we'll look at that in more detail when looking at the top 10. The Zeneca Old looks like it's reacting to the pump, but as we'll see, that might not be quite as it looks. Zeneca New doesn't give a fuck about the pump. It's just gone back down. It was sort of fighting or like dancing with this 7-day SMA for the last few days. It's now decided to start to dance on the other side again. Could go back up, or could just go back down and continue a trend down. It's impossible to say. As for the women-led projects index, that is definitely still in the dumps. As I said yesterday, there was a chance that it would sort of start doing what Zeneca New was doing, but actually it's decided to go back to a downward trend. It's important to look at the bar charts as well as these health indices, because the health indices can hide or can make it harder to see what the cause is of a rise of an index. And that's particularly important here for this Zeneca Old bump, as we'll see as soon as we look at these bar charts, because actually most of this pump is coming from this one blue project. I don't know what it is. I need to improve my tool so I can pinpoint which project is pumping actually. It shouldn't be too hard to do that. Just give me the most active project in the last day, and that will probably tell me that. and I will build that at some point sooner or later. But you can see visually that if you remove this blue project, then it's actually not doing very well, this Zeneca old index. So whatever this news-driven pump or catastrophe, whatever the hell is happening with this blue project, usually when it's a big pump like this, it's either a news spike or a disaster where there's a massive sell-off. Either way, it's never lasting good news. And bearing in mind, this is only half a bar at the moment. It's only based on 3 hours of data, and so it would be expected to double. That would still be a fairly low area for this bar chart to land on. So I'm not very hopeful about the Zeneca old index, despite the fact that the short-term chart here looks like a bump. As for the top 10, there, if we double this bar, we end up somewhere here, which is a bit more optimistic, especially since this is usually the low bar in our cycle. So it's not too bad, and I think so. I don't think that's despite the fact that this pump has not continued. I suspect that where we're going to get to is a continuation of the slow rise of volumes, but it's definitely gone through. Like there's definitely not just stayed up here and gone up from here. Ali, yes, the Zeneca old includes the top 10 blue chips as well. You can see them at the bottom here, booming here. Now the Zeneca new is also not looking great, and as you can see on the women-led projects chart there, it's also trending down as the index shows us. So there's nothing too surprising in the stacked bar charts. So let's look at the top 10 in a little bit more detail, the more long-term perspective. So we've been looking at this sort of rise for some time now. It's looked maybe a little bit more positive. Oops, can't draw straight lines. Maybe a little bit more positive if it was touching on these points. It's now kind of come back down here. Yeah, so it's kind of broken that line, but it's still above the 7-day SMA, and it might, I think based on what's going on at the moment, it might well rebound and continue on its way up. But if we do look at what's happened in the past, there's also the possibility that it might just go down like this. If we see what happened back in December, which we can just about see now in the 90-day charts, it's just about to scroll off. There was a recovery that started around early December, and then there was a kind of dip, and then it continued. So like before here, there was a kind of like this. It was also kind of rising in a similar way that it's doing here. I don't know what happened exactly in mid-December, but it went up a bit more sharply, and then it collapsed. It stayed down a bit, and then it resumed as if nothing had ever happened. You can almost draw a straight line there and just see it just continue. Maybe the same thing will happen this time. A sort of nice rise happening here, and then a bit of a spike, not as pronounced as here, but still a bit of a spike, and then a collapse, and then return to the trend. Why would that happen? As I mentioned in my tweet threads, I think there's a possibility that people who are really, really short-term driven, they don't want to see a long, slow trend back to the bull market. They want to see a rapid spike and straight off to the moon. And when they don't see that happen, they get disillusioned very quickly, because their expectations are so short-term, and they only see the short-term. Sorry to be harsh, but fair. I think when the short term doesn't realize, this is the same people who undercut projects and sell out and just undercut immediately right after mint without even waiting for the project to stabilize around a certain price. And those very short term focused people, which can also sometimes be extremely effective traders, when they don't see, if they've bet on a kind of massive pump based on the Yugo Labs acquiring CryptoPunks news, and they don't see that happen, and however the prices have risen, as we'll see in a second, quite substantially, they might go and undercut and try to sell out, and everybody seeing the prices drop might buy or might just not buy because they feel like the prices are about to drop again, and that could lead to that kind of collapse in the short term. The hopeful news about this is that even though that happened back in December, it did not actually stop the inexorable rise of volumes that led to a bull market in late December and early January. So even if that happens, I'm not too hopeless. I'll keep my hope there. I guess a signal that I'm completely wrong is if it collapses and then collapses low, like say if it goes lower than our lowest low. Even if it goes lower than this low, I'll be a bit concerned. But if it goes down, say to this level and hangs out here a bit and then comes back up here, that would be a reasonably positive scenario, I think. So let's watch this, but we know that the pump hasn't been sustained, and we'll watch to see which scenario is it that actually plays out here. If we look at Seneca Old, so remembering that this last pump here is a little bit artificial, we're nevertheless seeing a kind of U-shape recovery there. But because this is a single project pump, I expect this to come back down to here. So it's going to be a lot flatter than it looks at the moment. Right now it looks like it's just taking off exponentially, when it's definitely not going to do that. It's probably more likely to go like this. That, at least that's the optimistic scenario, assuming that Seneca Old is also seeing a recovery, which it does look like that's what is likely to happen here. If we look at Seneca New, there, however, so for the last few days we've had this kind of dancing with the 7-day SMA going on. We've kind of gone back down below. That doesn't mean we're going to stay below. It could be that it's going to go back above and sort of continue doing this and sort of consolidating, except this is not a price chart. Remember, this is a volume chart. So consolidation doesn't quite mean the same thing here. We don't want to consolidate at low volumes. That doesn't, but at the same time, we do want to not slide further down if we can avoid it. But right now on this thing, we definitely have made well, not quite a lower low based on this low, but lower low based on this one. So it's, if there is a recovery going on, it's still going to take a while, which is what I would expect. I don't expect Seneca New to be leading the market because those are more risky, more recent projects. Finally, if we look at the women-led projects, that index, we said yesterday, well, maybe it's going to do what Seneca New is doing and starts flirting with 7-day SMA. Nope. It's just gone back down. So we're still in a downtrend of volumes on the women-led projects. And if we look at the prices, we can see that those are also still in the downtrend. So don't expect too many miracles there from the women-led projects index, which, by the way, Ali, who is dialed in right now, put together. Thanks, Ali. This is based on your project sets that you put together. I'm getting towards the end of this, of the stuff I want to share. If you have any questions, please do post them in the chat so I can answer them. I'll have a quick look. One thing worth having a look there is just to see how big an increase we're talking about. Like Bored Ape is back up to 94. It was hanging out at 70 recently. That's a massive rise. Mutant Apes was also about 14. It's now at 18. So there's been some pretty substantial rises in some projects. Doodles as well, interestingly, 10% in the last 24 hours. That's quite big. MFOs as well. So they have, like, you know, the fact that those prices have risen, but what we're seeing already in this chart is that they're kind of stabilizing. They're not rising in the last 6 hours, even though they continued rising in the last 24 hours. And the other thing that was worth sharing before we end this call is the Bitcoin charts. And thankfully, they still continue to be boring, which is, as I keep saying, what we want for a good NFT trading. Gas is also astonishing low. I think it was like 7 earlier today. I saw somebody post a screenshot with gas at 7. I've never seen a single-digit gas in my life, because I wasn't looking at gas back in back in January last year when it was around those prices. So we have fewer viewers today because it's at an odd time, I guess. There aren't any questions yet. I'll see if I can put on some music again, and wait to see if a question comes up. Please do let me know if the music actually sounds okay, because I can't actually hear it on this side. I can just know that it's playing because I see the volume meter shift. So do let me know if you can hear the music and if it sounds all right. There. And if you like it, it's improvised by a friend of mine called Steve. I need to ask him for his social media links. So I'll give it 30 seconds or a minute to see if somebody has any questions. If not, I'll call it a day and see you tomorrow back at the usual time. And I'm very curious to see what will happen, whether we'll actually get another collapse here or whether we'll continue up. You're welcome. You all know it's me. Can anybody hear the music? Is the music playing? I'll have to watch this in the replay. Find out if the music was playing. Thanks, Ali, for dialing in. Okay, cool. Excellent. The music is playing. Fantastic. Hopefully it's enjoyable. Okay, thanks everybody for dialing in, and I'll see you tomorrow back at the usual time. And see you on Twitter and stuff. I'll be away a bit this afternoon, probably not checking my phone very much, but get in touch if you have any other questions. Cheers. Have a lovely day.